I remember looking and thinking, God, I'm getting more views than KSI.
Jack McNeill, TikTok and YouTube sensation. Lamborghini Hurricane style exhaust to your Honda Jazz.
I stumbled across it in many ways. I made a decision at the beginning of this year, and I was thinking, oh my God. Started posting 3 times a day. That was when Boris started. The trajectory from 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 to 500,000 to 1 million happened within a...
Jack McNeill, TikTok and YouTube sensation. I'm sure that many of the audience would have either seen you pop up on their phone, whether it be for a second or for 10 minutes within YouTube. Your face has literally been everywhere. You've recently fitted a custom, what I would call Lamborghini Hurricane Performante style exhaust to your Honda Jazz, which is beyond the normal mods that most automotive people do to their cars. However, before I say too much, Jack, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
So, as you've stated, I am Jack McNeill, is my name, and I do automotive content, just silly videos on cheap cars is what I specialise in. So yeah, I'd say that's probably it.
Not a bad sector when you're going to try and keep your overheads down when running a YouTube
that
channel.
is. See, I had a chat with Chris Slicks earlier today, and he was telling me about the price on his, well, all the costs that he's incurring with his AMG GT build, and yeah, I am glad that I'm doing a Honda Jazz and not a supercar or something extraordinary, because it is cheap.
He's literally lost his hair.
He has. He's lost so much money and his hair.
And it must be going well for you, though, because you're 23 years old.
23, yeah.
And you've built up, approaching across all the platforms, over 2 million followers since you've been doing this base, which is just an insane amount of people. And you now are doing this full-time for a living?
Full-time, yeah.
Which, how long have you been doing this for full-time?
So I made a decision at the beginning of this year that I said, because I will go into it a little bit later on, but beginning this year I said, do you know what, let's give this content creation stuff a real crack, because I never really thought that I'd 100% gone at it in the past. I always thought, because I had uni to contend with and lots of different things I was juggling with, so I thought, do you know what, it's January, it's the new year, let me just take a crack at this. So literally 6 months has been how long I've been really going for it.
And one of the things that I think captivates your audience, and like many audiences, and something that I loved as well, is you're so well-spoken, so well-mannered, so smart appearance,
thank you.
You always give off this Aston Martin Bond-esque of young
style.
Well,
do you know what?
But
I will
then
take it.
Turn up in boosted Boris, a 1 litre Nissan Micra with pink stripes down the side of it. And I think the audience loves the fact that it's not stereotypically what they think they would see you in terms of your content. But before we get into what you're doing now, I want to understand that how you got the position and what's formed the person you are today and how you do what you do. So what is your earliest memory of a car?
My earliest memory of a car. So I went on a holiday my parents took me to Monaco when I was about 10, and I was dying to go because I'd always seen the YouTube videos of like those car spotters in Monaco, and I remember seeing a black and orange Bugatti Veyron, and I was thinking, oh my God, I need one of those. I mean, whether that will happen or not is yet to be seen, but that was my earliest memory of a car, and I remember just being absolutely starstruck, and I was like, I like cars. And that's the moment I knew. I was like 10. I was like, I like cars. That's cool.
And what was life like growing up then? If you paint us a picture, why did you want to see that Bugatti Veyron? Was your dad into cars? Was the family? What sparked that love? Or did you just find them on Top Gear on a Sunday night, which is what the family put on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people in our generation have been kind of brought up on Top Gear. I did like Top Gear, but I was never like an avid watcher that watched it every single Sunday. I actually got into Top Gear a lot more after it finished, and then I started watching all the reruns and thinking, oh God, I've missed out on all of this, because I never was like an avid watcher of it. But I'd say my family have been into cars. My dad absolutely loves his cars. And yeah, I mean, he didn't really take me to any car shows when I was younger, but we've always been on the lookout, you know, whether it's the school run or whatever I was looking at. I used to name all the cars on the way to school. I had this game I used to play with. I was like, Dad, I bet I can name every single car that goes past our window on the opposite direction. And I used to just name them all. And he probably was quite fed up of me doing that. But
so does that mean that there was some nice cars at your school? Was you public school, private school? Paint us a picture.
Yeah, so I went to private school. Throughout my whole life, I've been to private school. I was very lucky to have been, and yeah, there were some nice cars, but I wouldn't say it was like a really fancy private school. It was, the cars that you'd see in the car park weren't out of the ordinary. But no, it was a private school.
Which I think is what's so hilarious about the type of content that you do now, because you can't help but pick up that slightly well-spoken, well-mannered edge. But then you're working on boosted Boris with pink stripes, trying to get it into a casino in Monaco.
Because I never wanted to come across as like, I don't know. I always had an affinity with these real small, cheap hatchbacks. Those are the cars that I've always kind of felt an affinity to, and I've always just loved the idea of overtaking someone in a fancy car in something crap, and that's kind of what I've always. I used to play GTA a lot. That was another thing that really got me into cars. Me and my good friend Rufus, we always used to get on GTA, and
that's not Rufus Rice.
No, not Rufus Rice.
I was gonna say.
No, he's a good friend of mine. Lives close to me, and he's and we've always been into cars together, and always buying the crap cars on GTA and then modding them. And now I'm doing it in real life. So
what was the first car?
The first car was a Polo. Very basic. It was a Polo 6C, I believe, a 1.2 TSI. So nothing too crazy.
And that was 17, and at a time where you were at university, and if so, what was you studying?
So I was studying, I've been studying business management at the University of Bath. So that's kind of what I did during the university side of things. But I didn't actually have that car during university, because I've been through many cars. And that Polo was probably the car I've had for the longest, but I didn't have it during uni. I had all sorts of crap, really.
And why business management? Because obviously, like many of the guests that come on the podcast, especially around the content creation side, there's a moment where they almost just fell into this life. There's that one piece of the puzzle which is just falling into it, and then the rest that actually comes together that makes them good at doing it. What was the plan? Why were you studying business? What was the original plan?
So my plan was always, I wanted to be a business owner growing up, because that's kind of what my dad had done. So I knew I wanted to be a business owner to some degree, but I had no idea what that was going to be in. So I thought business management is a good degree, which leaves a lot of doors open, and it's not too like niche down. It's not like neuroscience or something, So I didn't really know what it was that I wanted to do. I kind of stumbled across this car thing. A lot of people who are in the scene, I know from listening to your podcast a few times, they've kind of been driven to always do cars. I've never had that. I've loved cars my whole life, but I kind of stumbled across this because TikTok is one of those platforms, because that's kind of how I kind of came up. It's one of those platforms where you can just post a video that you've really not put any effort into, and it just goes crazy. So that's kind of what happened to me, and I thought, well, I might give this a go.
But then does that trigger, I'm getting the sense of when I look at your content, start to talk to you, that you're obsessive over fine detail.
Yes.
A little bit. And the thing with TikTok is, did it frustrate you when you first got onto TikTok that it didn't really necessarily make sense?
It did to a degree, because I didn't like the fact that I feel like I was getting all of this success that wasn't really earned. It didn't really feel earned, because like I just picked up a phone and just filmed some Nissan Micra. Like, it was actually the one that I had before Boris, a white one. Not sure whether you've seen that in your research, but that was an old white one. And I just got all these views. I was thinking, how am I getting all these views? Because it was when TikTok was really early and YouTube was like the main thing back then. I was thinking 200,000 views is crazy. Like on YouTube, that would be like, you can make a living off that. But 200,000 views on TikTok just seems so easy to get.
So were you one of the, and just to paint a picture to the audience, before the Jack McNeill that you may have watched on YouTube, TikTok is the platform that you've got the biggest following on, and it was the platform that you were first on, correct?
Yes.
And did you just have like a normal TikTok account for your uni stuff and fell into this, or was there any kind of plan to start posting stuff about cars?
So there was no plan. I had my personal account, which I just, obviously you got to sign up to an account to use the app. So sign up to the account, just use my name, and then me and my friend again, Rufus, the same guy who I played GTA with back in the day, we were like, we love modding cars, we really want to do it, let's get something cheap to kind of do it all with. And that car, we bought it, and then I just did a video on it because it had a cool little turbo kit on it, and I thought it looks really bad and rusty on the outside, it's kind of like a sleeper vibe. I thought, let me just do a video of it to a trending sound, and I posted it, and it did 800,000 views. I was like, whoa. And that was kind of what I said, okay, let's just do a few more. And it kind of just snowballed from there. And that's kind of how it started. So it wasn't actually purposeful. It was, I stumbled across it in many ways.
Which is insane, because TikTok, no one really understood what TikTok was and how it worked. But to even post something to social media that includes your face and you making a video about everything, you must have been quite confident. Where did you get that from growing up? Were you always just the confident kid? Were you always making videos in one way or another? Or was you the class clown even at private school? Like, what's the bits that went into that?
To a degree. So I was sort of the class clown, but the confidence to actually show my face on the videos didn't come until kind of a couple months into me doing it, because I kind of used to just do like videos of the car to a trending sound. I never used to show my face because I was actually always a little bit self-conscious of kind of, you know, what would my friends think of me posting all these videos like that. That was always a worry, especially when I was a teenager and I was obviously, you know, still in school or still in university. I always thought that, but the confidence, I would say, probably came from, you know, I was always into my sport. I was captains of the football team quite a lot. I've always been quite a loud personality. I think that's just natural. And but yeah, I'd say it's a degree, a mix between nature and nurture, I'd say.
So how long was it before you got your first 100,000 followers on TikTok? And also, how long was it before you made your first money?
So I remember getting to around 60,000 followers on TikTok from just posting this Nissan Micra, this old white one I used to have, right? And from when I got to that point, I was like, right, come on, let's at least take this seriously, because if I can get to 100k, that'd be bloody cool. So I started posting 3 times a day, answering all my followers' questions, and I got to 80k, and I posted 3 times a day for I think it was about a month or two, and that got me to 80k. And in all of those videos where I was answering my followers' questions, because it was like, a lot of it was like, you know, what first car should I get? And I used to answer, oh, this is a good first car, that's a good first car. And a car which I always used to mention was the Nissan Micra. A, because I'd had one, the white one, which I'd had earlier, and also because I saw an awesome one on Officially Gas YouTube channel. Not sure if you've seen it, but he's got a video with over 1 million views on there where this guy modifies this really ropey Nissan Micra, and he builds his own turbo kit and all that sort of stuff. So I just fallen in love with these cars, and I'd always said it. But at 80,000 followers, that was the point where I'd already got rid of the white one because it blew up, went to the scrapyard, and my followers were like, why don't you get a Nissan Micra? You keep on saying like you love them so much. I was like, do you know what? Let's do it. And that was when Boris started. And the trajectory from 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 to 500,000 to 1 million happened within a month. From that 80,000 follower point, it happened within a month, because that's how viral that content went.
You went from 80,000 followers to 1 million in a month.
Yeah. And it was like, I remember looking and thinking, God, I'm getting more views than KSI. Like, I remember thinking, like, this guy, I used to watch KSI as a kid, all of it. And I was thinking, I'm getting more views, more. I was like, nobody's getting more followers than me in this month on this platform, surely. I was like, 1 million in a month. I was just mind blown. And that was when it kind of told me, I was like,
and was that monetized as well?
No, none of it was monetized.
Right.
None of it. No, I wasn't making money off it. It was all for the joy of it, and also for the fact that I felt like I was building something, and it had momentum, so it just kept on sparking me to keep going.
But before I get too into it, because I'm fascinated to ask what then happened, the thing that's jumping out on me is, I'm imagining if you went to private school, had a great upbringing with your dad, he was into business, I'm imagining you didn't get taken to school in a Nissan Micra called Boris. So like, where has this love for absolute small, cheap, modified cars, where did that come from? How did you end up with that?
I'd say it was I always used to watch those videos of like Sleeper destroys supercar, or I don't know. There's this, I think it's Boosted Boys. I can't remember what exact channel it is, but there's this channel where this guy, I actually don't even know the model of the car or anything about it, but I just seem to remember watching this SUV with some crappy looking SUV with some crazy big dustbin lid turbo just gapping supercars on the drag strip, and I always used to think, oh, I really want to do that, because there's nothing more satisfying than getting a car which everybody thinks is a grocery getter and just chopping someone who's got a really fancy car. And that to me just is like, that's what cars is about.
You're not going to Santa Pod on Tuesday, are you?
I am going to Santa Pod on Tuesday. However, I don't think any of my cars are quite at the point to be gapping any of yours, but one day.
That is fantastic. And that car journey, that started with a white Nissan Micra and then went to another Micra.
Yes.
then there was a
Oh,
Yaris.
I've had 6 Micras, so we're not going to go through. Might even be 7, to be honest. But it had So I went to the Yaris as well. So after kind of I've had that explosive success with Boris, I was like, whoa, I've got to keep this up somehow. I can't just stop here. And then I went on to doing the Yaris, or Teresa the Yaris, which is.
And at that point, there was no money coming in from the channel, or you hadn't thought about monetizing it.
So the only way I'd like kind of used to kind of sustain it, because all of the mods were actually really cheap. Like I didn't do some crazy mods. The only thing that was keeping me going during that time was I asked for like donations from people. I was just like asked for donations, and I used to put their names on the end of the TikToks and say thank you to all these people for donating. So that was number one, and I had a decent amount come through from that, and then also just companies wanting to hop on this new TikTok thing, giving me free stuff. That was it. That literally was what. And I also had an overdraft as well. So that was literally all that kind of funded Boris.
Totally self-funded. Complete hobby in a way. And you're like...
I had a £1,000 overdraft from university, and I literally went through it with Boris as soon as I bought the car.
So just for reference, you're 23 now.
23, yeah.
So how long have you been doing your TikTok?
Oh, I mean, I would say since I'd say the second half of 2020 was when I started.
So you exploded in lockdown.
I exploded in lockdown. I seem to remember it being early 2021, although I could be wrong, but I think that was roughly when it happened.
And when you went full time with your content creation, was that pre you starting a YouTube channel?
I don't think so, no, because I always thought that TikTok isn't enough by itself to be a full-time content job.
Even on a 1.5 million
even
followers.
On a 1.5 million, because a lot of times the companies that want to work with you, they only want to work with you once. And I also think that back then my understanding of how to deliver value for companies and how to actually provide them with what they want, which is either sales or eyes on the videos, it was my understanding was limited. So I very rarely got repeat kind of companies coming back. So I always, I looked at kind of, the other YouTubers in the scene, and I thought they're doing it because they can post a YouTube video and get a sponsorship every single time they post. With TikTok, it's really difficult to integrate a sponsorship into a TikTok, or else people just scroll off. So it's like, it's so easy to exit the video. That's the problem with it. As soon as you stop entertaining someone on TikTok, they go. So you got to be ruthless in what you keep in a TikTok. So it makes it very difficult to put sponsored segments in there, unless it's like, oh, shout out to this company for helping me out. Boom, that's kind of all you can include. So, yeah.
And you seem to have done it by the simple art, and there's no other real way of saying this, the simple art of not giving a fuck.
Yes.
And I notice, and I'm a huge believer, that the most successful creators that have sat in this van, that have been on the podcast, that have got their own channels, they've all learned it's not losing their dignity in some respect, but when sometimes we're stood there making a thumbnail like that,
oh my god,
like,
the thumbnails.
You do have to question yourself.
If someone had a camera on me when I'm doing my thumbnail poses, I would die, because it's the worst thing. I just stand there in my unit just like going like, oh. It's the worst.
But would you say that you've always been like that, or did you have to learn to basically just give your audience everything to be in this new life?
There's always been a part of me that's like not really been kind of I mean, obviously there was a part of me that wanted to fit in at school, but I always thought that I was a little bit kind of like, I never like just followed the crowd in terms of like, going, I mean, I went to parties or whatnot, but like I always thought that kind of, I wasn't afraid to be a little bit taking the piss out of, or taking the mick out of, to pursue something which I thought was quite cool. So I feel like there was that to a degree, but I really had to develop that as I got into the content creation. I really had to learn to not care, because that's the thing. If anybody wants to start a channel, you'll know this. You think that people judge you a lot more than they actually do, and the main thing about it is you just have to do it and not care what people think, because as soon as you care what people think, that will translate through your videos, and it will also mean that you just won't be as successful, because you'll be holding back what you can truly offer in terms of an entertainment or any other type of value you're offering in your video.
So on that, there's a moment that sticks out to me when I've watched your YouTube library of videos, not necessarily TikTok, as the moment that if I was in the car, I would have probably crawled up into a ball and wanted to hide myself in embarrassment with the pinkest face, probably redder than my hair, that you've ever seen in your life, which was when you got rejected from getting into Monte Carlo Casino's car park in your pink 1 litre Nissan Micra called Boris, turbocharged.
Yes.
Did you just love that moment, or was there any sense of like, that was a bit embarrassing?
I mean, it wasn't. I never felt embarrassment because at the end of the day, I kind of knew it wasn't going to get in, but I based that whole video around the whether or not we can get parked outside. That was kind of the goal, and that was kind of what was keeping people engaged. So the moment that like those bollards came up and just like denied my car from entering, I was like, that is entertainment gold. So I actually quite liked it, although I was pretty miffed that I had to drive the car all the way back to the hotel and then walk up in a tuxedo getting hot. But so I was a bit miffed from that point of view, but I knew it would do well on a video side of things. So.
And to be fair, I understand the piss taking you must have enthralled in that video, from who you were with.
Oh yeah,
because I've been on a road trip with the boys as well. And you essentially on that road trip went away with good friends Chris Slicks and Matt Armstrong. They were both in their Aston Martins.
Yes.
And you were in Boris.
Yes.
Somehow made it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Boris actually did very well on that road trip. He only broke down twice, which is actually not too bad for a car which I put together myself. It was the first engine I'd ever touched, that thing. And it was, I mean, I had help from friends, of course, but that was the first kind of time I felt properly proud of something mechanically I'd done on a car, because it was like, it made it to Monaco and back, and I did the work on the engine.
Speaking about then doing stuff mechanically on a car, Matt started with basically no knowledge on a TT on a drive. You did the same thing with Boris then.
So with me, I mean, obviously going back to my family, I've never had a family that have been like, oh, you know, don't take it to the mechanic, Jack. Let's, you know, get the spanners out and give it a go ourselves. My family have always been, do not touch your car. It will blow up if you touch it with a, you know, if you try and get a tool on it and touch it. So it's always been, it was a real big mental hurdle for me to get over, trying to actually work on my own car. I was scared stiff of doing it because I was like, oh my God, what if I leave a bolt undone and the car explodes? So that was genuinely my mindset. But then what getting those cheap cars did for me, maybe this is the reason why I like them so much, is because it allowed me to not care. It allowed me to just try something and see what it did, and it allowed me to build that confidence up with working on cars, and which eventually allowed me to kind of do what I'm doing now.
Because you've got this business mindset. You've been to university, you've done business management, you run your channel now like a business. It's all works, understanding. Did you suddenly find that you just loved also the manual side of working on cars and getting involved with them? Was it like a hidden thing that you didn't know you had?
I've always known that I didn't want to be kind of stuck behind a desk, kind of doing Excel spreadsheets or whatever. I always knew that wasn't for me. So I thought, what is it that I can do that is hands-on? And, you know, working on cars is that. And I really enjoy working on cars. But more than that, I love the feeling at the end of it where you get that pride of like, I did that and the car works and it actually moves and I actually put that together. That's what I do it for personally. I love the feeling of accomplishment you get when you finish it. So, you know, sometimes there are moments when you're working on the car and you've snapped a bolt or you've rounded a bolt and you're thinking, God, this is nothing worse. But when you get through that and when you actually get that end result, that's what makes it all worth it. And you drive that car for the first time and you're just giggling, you're grinning from ear to ear.
And you can pull up at the Shamrock Hotel at the end of lockdown at Petrhead and as Chiro said, park it right in between two Lamborghini Aventador SVs and get more attention than every supercar.
That was probably a highlight of my career, was the whole fiasco at that event where we literally parked the car in between two majorly expensive supercars and people were just surrounding my little Nissan Micra which I'd made on TikTok. It was a good moment.
But if you start going to these events, you obviously meet people and build a network. We mentioned that you went away with Matt and Chris. How did you get to know Matt and Chris and end up going away with those guys?
Really, it's a really strange thing. It really ties well into that event because that is the event I met Matt at. And Matt actually came up to me and asked me, I think he asked me to do a collab on his YouTube channel. And he wanted to wrap one of my cars for me because he was doing a lot of wrapping with the cars that he'd done. at the time. So basically what happened was I brought my Yaris down to Matt's unit, and he wrapped it for me free of charge. Very nice of him. And that's kind of how I got to know Matt, and how I got to know kind of his side of things, and yeah, the relationship with him. And then later down the line, Chris kind of went on from there.
And you ended up going away on the road trip with the
Yes.
boys in the cars. What was your first thoughts when you was thinking, I'm going to take my 1 litre turbo Nissan Micra across Europe down to Monaco with the lads, but they're in their Aston Martins? What went through your head?
No air conditioning. That was what went through my head. I was thinking, oh my god, they're loving life, going through Saint-Tropez with their AC and their Aston Martins, and I was just there sweating my bollocks off, just trying not to die of dehydration. But no, that was probably the worst part of taking that car. But to be honest, it was a massive aspirational thing for me, because I saw those guys in their Astons, and it was very cool, and I was like, oh, well, one day, and yeah, so it's...
Well, are we allowed to let on to the fact that there's something parked outside the van
we are,
that's
because
behind us?
I mean, I'm not sure when this will go out, but I'm filming something on that car in a week's time, so yeah, I'm sure we can let it slip now.
You have a black Aston Martin Vantage. The fact that it hasn't already slipped, because I think I remember you back in February at an event at Autosport in it,
Yes.
is unbelievable. But what I find really cool is when you go back through your YouTube catalogue, look at videos, and you've gone away in Boris across Europe with Matt and Chris in their Astons, and now you've got an Aston that's parked outside.
I mean, it was like that. I mean, it was especially Chris's one. I really liked it. The only thing that let it down for me was the fact that it didn't have a manual gearbox, and it had Chris in it, which was, Aston Martin owners were looking less cool by the minute. But no, I loved his car, and that natural aspirated V8, it did something to me. I was like, I'd never even been in a V8. I had been in a V8, but never a naturally aspirated V8, and that was, to me, I was like, I want this.
I guess it's actually quite interesting because, as you say, that life growing up where you're spotting cars, you're into cars, you could tell your dad on the way to school, oh, that's a so-and-so. You must have seen some Astons and this, that and the other.
Oh, yeah.
Now, everybody listening and watching this podcast, I want you to do something for me. I want you to picture, in 3, 2, 1, what an Aston Martin owner looks like in your head. Because what we're actually dealing with in this day and age is when you went on that road trip, you see a man that wears a beanie in 35 degrees heat and dyes his hair black every week with massive earrings, talking with on the end of every word, driving a red Aston Martin that was crashed and rebuilt, and then a man with a receding hairline driving a blue Aston Martin.
It also says at the end of every sentence.
Yeah, and can be very scary. When you actually then look at the new world of who is actually owning these cars, and now yourself as well, 23 years old with an Aston Martin Vantage, social media is completely changing our perspective of who owns what, isn't it? And also the brands, because when you think of Aston, everybody probably thought of a 60-year-old man with half grey hair coming out, whatever. That was the perception of Aston Martin, but everything seems to be changing now. Anybody can kind of get access to these cars with the right content.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. I think this whole kind of new age of influencers or content creators is what I prefer to call them. It definitely has massively impacted the kind of brand image of the owners, because if you do well enough on these platforms, you can sit in these cars which were previously preserved for the high end. So it is pretty cool for sure. But
that's only come through hard work and monetization of this platform that we've been talking about. When you went on that road trip with the boys, at what stage were you at in your journey with that first car? And then just try and create us a bit of a timeline as to what's happened since and how you've got there.
So I started the Boris series just after I'd come back from university in my second year. Came back home because it was lockdown. It was actually kind of like in January of that uni year. Uni finishes in May. January of that uni year, I came back home because of lockdown. Started that Boris series, did it all the way until my placement year. And at my placement year, I had to make a decision. I was like, right, do I go and get a job? I was actually trying to get a job at Honda doing finance. I just wanted to work at Honda. And I was thinking, right, do I go and do that and do some Excel spreadsheets and get some kind of, more... some better looking real world experience, or do I just say, you know what, fuck it, let's give this a go? Went for the latter option, and that's when I started the YouTube quite seriously, and did that for a year. And then just before I went back to uni in September was when I went on that road trip, And then from there, I did one more year of university, completely halted everything.
Because I
for that
see
year.
comments on your channel, which is like, ask Jack where he went. Jack just disappeared.
So it was just simply, and I didn't get kidnapped. It was just the fact that I had university to finish off, and my parents sat me down and they said, look, Jack, like, let's be honest, this YouTube thing isn't at the point where it needs to be, where you can just say, let me just go and do this, get your university finished, and then come back to it after. And that was a really good piece of advice. So I'm glad I've got that under my belt now. I've done uni, I've got my 2-1.
Are you though? Are you glad that you went?
Yes,
that you finished that
100%,
university grade?
because I've 100%. Because for me, university was about the experience. It was about people that I met. It was about the lessons that I learned, and all of that is valuable, and all of that has helped me in my pursuit now.
So the business management course, has that helped what you're doing now as a content
I wouldn't say
creator?
it was the course. It was the lessons you learn in terms of who you're with, and also, you know, meeting people who are like-minded, and also in terms of like managing the workload. And some of the courses did help. Like there's a course on negotiation which I actually used in a meeting I had with Car Vertical the other day. So it's not completely useless, as some people might say uni degrees are. I don't think it was completely useless. I took some value from it, and I really enjoyed it at the same time. And now I'm at a point where I've done that. I've got it under my belt, and I can now pursue this without any kind of year at university looming over my head.
So what happened then when you finished that year, after your parents had said, no, go back, get it done, get it finished, complete it?
Yep.
And then you did do that. Then what were you left with? That choice of whether to go into work or whether to pursue it. And what did your family think?
Exactly. So my parents were kind of along the lines of, kind of, you know, have the summer, figure it out, and, you know, we'll reconvene at the end of summer. So what I said to myself was like, right, I know I want to be a business owner. That hasn't changed. Is it in content creation, or is it in something else? So I actually tried kind of doing a bit of a social media marketing agency, a little bit of something similar to what you do on a very, very small scale. You know, going to clients and doing videos for them and content, because I took my social media knowledge and tried to do a little bit of that, whilst also doing some brand deals on my socials, kind of juggling that. So doing brands on my socials, and then also getting some clients on board and doing kind of their content for them. I did the exhaust company's content, for example, for a few months, and I did their TikTok and grew it to 40,000 followers in a few months, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that sort of thing was what I was trying. But then I thought to myself, I had this was actually the moment where I decided I need to get back into this. I had an EA deal come through, a WRC EA deal, which was like the biggest deal I've ever got. And I was thinking, I've not been posting any content. I've only been posting brand deals over the past few months, and I've been offered this. And I was like, let me just give this a go. And once I gave it a go, and once I allowed myself to be that content creator and actually do it, I really started to fall in love with it. And, you know, the YouTube side of things, because I'd never fallen in love with the YouTube side of things before, even though I did it for kind of over my placement year. But when I said, you know, let's do this and really go at it 100%, that's when I fell in love with it. And that's when the success kind of came on that platform.
And what was doing it? What did that look like in your mind? What is it that you're doing or were doing at that point, or did?
It's not just uploading the videos. It's researching. It's really actively trying to get better, actively trying to make my videos land on other people's recommended and making them click on it and giving them that fulfilling watch. I never used to do that. In my placement year, when I was doing it, it was all just kind of like, oh, I'm changing the clutch on my Suzuki Jimny because it needs a clutch. So let me just do a video changing my clutch on my Suzuki Jimny, and then I wondered why it didn't do very well. Which is
quite TikTok-minded as well.
Yes.
Something like that could do well on TikTok.
Exactly. It could do well on TikTok, but it just didn't translate on YouTube. So I didn't have an understanding of it then during my placement year. But I also was thinking, well, even if I smash it, I've still got to go back to uni at the end of it. So I was like, I didn't go at it 100% during that year. And now I've kind of got the freedom to just do it. And I've also fallen in love with the process of finding out what works on YouTube and really trying to build the channel. I'm sure you'll have the exact same passion, and that is what ignites the fire in me. I love like saying, how can I make it better? How can I kind of get my channel to that next level and get it on the same kind of, you know, playing field as these other guys who I look up to.
And you thought, I'm gonna buy a Honda Jazz.
That is exactly what I thought.
How did that come about?
So I thought to myself, I am the cheap car man. I mean, obviously I've bought the Aston Martin, which is a bit off brand, but that's not going to stop me from doing my cheap car content. I always knew I had to do a cheap car content. And, my big question at the beginning of this year when I started doing it was, how am I going to actually make cheap cars work? Because you see all these guys, you see Matt, you see Chris, they're doing really fancy cars, rebuilding the crash damaged ones. How am I going to make that work with cheap cars? Realistically, rebuilding crash damaged cars is not going to work with cheap cars because nobody has any interest in you rebuilding a Honda Jazz that's been crashed. That is boring. So how can I make it exciting and give people a story that they want to follow and be invested in, so they click on the next video and the next video and the next video? That's kind of the key. So I got thinking about it, and I was like, well, let's just do what I was doing with Boris, but kind of take away the audience picks the mod section, because that makes it very difficult to actually have an end goal that people are invested in to kind of get to. And I thought, let's do engine swaps and massive modifications that people will be like, whoa, what the hell, and take them through that journey. So that's kind of what I planned on doing. And I knew the Honda Jazz was a good car because people have kind of done the K20 swap before, and it was like, I could probably do that if with a bit of help, and I could probably get that done. And yeah, I just sent it, and to be honest, I think it's all in the execution. It's how you do it, not kind of what you do. I mean, it is what you do, but it's also how you do it.
So you paid 700 quid for the Honda Jazz?
800 quid.
£800
Yes.
for this Honda Jazz. You're also keeping your overheads for YouTube unbelievably low.
Well,
you'd be
surprised.
You seem to have knocked on the head of like, let's try and keep the car overheads as low as possible. We get the channel to do as well as possible, which is genius. But I'm guessing a lot more has gone into that Jazz.
Yes.
Paint us a picture. You get this Jazz and you're like, right, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to it. And the first time I saw some crazy content, I even think the first time I bumped into you back at Autosport at the start of the year, you were like, right, the back of your perf, Ben, you see these exhausts? I'm going to put that on my Honda Jazz.
Yes.
How the hell did you then go about that?
So,
how do you create a story and content out of that that actually earns money?
So that was actually before I'd identified the storytelling as a key aspect, because I mean that's a learning I've really taken from Matt's videos, and I'm sure you might have seen it as well. Matt is like a genius storyteller in his videos. Like, that is what gets his videos to the top level. So I hadn't identified that at the point. I kind of took the Mr. Beast idea of give your audience something just crazy to click on and something that they can't believe, and then deliver on that with the video. And that's kind of what I did. I knew it would do well because it's like I knew it would do well on short forms as well, because it appeases all the people who just want to see something ridiculous. And for the YouTube, I knew the thumbnail and title would work as well, having some big Lamborghini exhaust out of a Jazz. I knew it would work, and it did, but it didn't that was it. There wasn't like the story beyond that. I didn't really know what to do, so I then kind of rethought it, and I was like, hang on, let me do this properly. Let me do a proper Type R engine swap. Let me try and make a Honda Jazz Type R if Honda ever made one. That was the goal. And once I did that, once I outlined that as the story I wanted to tell, making that Honda Jazz, the content kind of fell into place, and the video started doing much better.
And you're now how many videos into that project?
I'd say probably seven or eight videos into it.
And that's since the beginning of this year?
Since the beginning of this year. Yeah.
So that's the beginning of this year, and up to that, how long had it been? So how long have you been full-time with YouTube, actually?
So it's not just YouTube, obviously. The thing is, the thing that kind of slows me down a little bit is that I'm filming everything for TikTok and Instagram as well. So once I've edited my YouTube video, I post that, and then I edit all of the shorts that I've got over the course of that YouTube video and post those as well. So yeah, I've been going completely full time since kind of January on it. But my ethos with it has always been, make the video as good as you can, get the maximum amount of people happy and just unbelievably fulfilled with the video that you're making, and then that will mean that they come back for more later, and it will mean that they subscribe. And if your video gets to see, I've always said to kind of people who are in the YouTube scene, I'd rather have 2 videos that did 100k. No, I'd rather have 1 video that did 200k than 2 that did 100k each, because it brings in more people, more subscribers, more people who actually get to see your videos. Because with the 200k videos, you'll get repeat viewers, but with 200k, you're getting maybe potentially 100k new people watching. So that's kind of been my ethos with it all.
And do you have to split your brain completely down the middle when doing your TikTok audience and your YouTube audience? Is it 2 completely different things?
To a degree. I don't change what I do to the cars, but I change what I completely change the the ethos of the content. With the YouTube, it's all about the storytelling. It's all about how to tell the story well and also deliver on the story by the end and give people kind of a satisfying journey. So that sort of thing with the YouTube. But with the TikTok, it's like, I'm going to do this, let's do it, blah, 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 done, take a look, like and follow. That's it. And that's kind of, so it's a completely different.
I'm guessing if you could
kettle of
only
fish.
pick one now, you would 100% pick YouTube.
It's difficult because I feel like my TikTok is more of a gem. Like, I feel like I could rebuild the YouTube quicker than I could rebuild the TikTok. And I feel like there aren't a lot of people in our space with over 1 million on TikTok, active followers that are actually watching all their videos. And my videos on TikTok are regularly, getting above the millions. And that's, to me, is I want to protect that, and I value that massively. So whilst the YouTube does earn more, the TikTok I feel like is more of a special, like, it is like something I struggle to rebuild.
It also makes people potentially click on your videos on YouTube as well when they're on different types of content and see your face. But TikTok, 1 million followers, does it pay?
Yes, it does now. It never used to. Back when I was doing Boris, it never paid. They didn't have any sort of create a fund or creativity program or whatever it was. It didn't pay back then, but now it does. It still doesn't pay me very much because I have a 4p RPM, which is very bad. A lot of people have 60p, £1 RPMs. Mine's 4p. So in terms of views, I don't get paid too much, but the brand deals on TikTok have really picked up over the last year, and it's what's allowed me to buy, my dream car, the Aston, and that's kind of the TikTok was what allowed me to do that. So the TikTok sponsorship deals have really helped. But what I've learned is that they're not regular. They are when brands want them. So I've kind of just got to take them when they come. But with the YouTube, you get out what you put in. Whenever you want to post, you can get a sponsor. Once you
asked me, we're sat at Gertwings, we've just had some food.
Very good, by the way.
And you asked me how I manage juggling like different businesses, the podcast, Gertwings, etc. at the start of the podcast. But the thing that you said that just absolutely baffled me is I wouldn't even know where to begin posting 3 times a day on TikTok. But I just wouldn't know what to film, where to begin, and how to do it. You've got to act like a machine, surely, to be able to post that. And are you still posting that frequently, even with YouTube now?
No. So I used to post that much on TikTok because it was kind of like, just chuck shit at a wall until something sticks. That was my motto. And I also saw all these videos on YouTube which were saying you got to post 3 times a day on TikTok, and I tried it. But it actually wasn't. It actually was surprisingly easy. I just had got a comment, did my opinions on car, maybe a little bit of research, did my opinions on whatever car they were asking about, and posted it. And I could actually bang it out in an evening. So it wasn't actually as difficult as you'd think. But now my kind of mindset with social media has shifted from post lots to post quality, and make sure that every single, the most amount of people possible that follow me and know who I am, click on that video and watch it. Because if I can get them coming every time and build that trust, that's what's going to carry my channel and build it over the long term.
And where do you think that long term goes? Because when we hang around with people like Matt and we see the potential of what they've done with the channels, it does make you quite excited, right?
Of course.
And is that translated into also at the beginning when maybe your parents weren't too sure about what it is that you were doing? Now are they fully on board?
Yes.
What's life like with them having a look into this world?
But I mean, it's funny you say that because both my parents are actually really supportive of it. We have a bi-weekly screening, or whenever my YouTube video comes out, we sit down and we watch it, and that's also a good part of it as well, is that I can show them actually what I've been doing, because I'm out of the house for the vast majority of the 2 weeks where I'm filming this video, there till late. I'm either there or I'm in my room just screaming voiceovers, and I think, what, he said the same thing again 30 times trying to get the right voiceover. So yeah, it's to then show them that hard work. I love that part of it. But yeah, they've actually been really supportive, and my dad and I have really good conversations about kind of like, the brand deals and where it's going, and he absolutely loves it, and my mum's a big fan as well.
Have you had, say, your very young in terms of the guests that I normally have on, if you lined them all up and did the mean average. And I usually ask, have you had a moment that has been the toughest part of the journey so far? And when people have had 10, 20-year experiences with what they've built up or over that period, there's usually that COVID moment if they've begun before that something's happened. Have you had a period where it's been really tough and that you have questioned whether you wanted to do this or not?
Yes.
Or are you currently living your uphill spiral?
I have. And I say now I'm lucky enough. I feel like I'm on that upward spiral. I feel like it's going really well at the minute, touch wood. But I have been at points, it's very difficult when you come from this just like crazy success of Boris getting 1 million views in a month, like 1 million followers in a month, to then going to not getting that success, and then getting the remainder of the year you get 200,000 followers on TikTok, which is just still good, but like you're comparing yourself to yourself in the past, and it's like, and then when you see the growth kind of tapering off, that's when you're thinking, oh, what am I doing wrong? You start second guessing yourself. And actually, when I was December of last year, so literally 7 or 8 months ago, I was sat at that point, and I got a few brand deals in, and obviously I was doing that kind of social media marketing agency that I was trying to do, and I got to that point in December, I was thinking, is this really what I'm going to be doing? I'm not too sure whether this is it. And I had a chat with my parents. I was like, should I just go and get a sales job? Like, should I just go and do something safe? And my dad told me, he's like, that makes me sad to hear. And he was like, you've got something which people would kill for in these platforms. At least give it a go. Try until June. And that's what he told me. And I said, you know what, you're right. And I went for it. And it's all panned out now. And now I'd be like, why was I even thinking that? Because it's like, it's such a blessing to be able to do this.
It's funny you say that, and the bit that I picked up from that as well was you sitting down with your parents and actually watching the videos every week, because I enjoy doing a similar thing with my mum, like even if she's in them on the fishery channel, like showing them the latest map video where we've gone off and done something, like she is literally going to bollock that man when she's booked a VIP ticket to meet him at Gravity, and she's going to rip him a new arsehole when she sees him the things that he's maybe doing.
If I was doing what you do, my mum would be the exact same.
Are you in a position going forward? You must have seen the way Matt's brought Tony into the channel and done things with that. Chris has brought Ethan in, you've got all these people. When you see that also is something that works, sort of bringing a family environment in, is that something that you could ever do with your family?
I couldn't bring the family in, no, because they're all very busy. They've all got their own pursuits. They're all like, my sister's actually into, ironically, my sister's in front of a camera as well. She's doing kind of horse racing presenting, which is really interesting, and she's really doing well with that. Obviously, my dad's, managing his business. My mum's always stays busy with whatever it is she's doing. So I'm not at a point where I can bring any of those in. It's a bit unfeasible, but what I can do is get some friends on board, and that's where I want to get to. I want to get to the point where I can pay one of my mates more than what they're earning at their job and say, come on, let's go and have some fun and see if we can make this work. That's the goal. I'm not there yet.
And how far away do you reckon that is?
If I could do it by the end of the year, I would feel very blessed, but it's going to be a long old battle, and it's going to be a lot of hard work to get to that point.
And are you going to have the next project lined up very shortly, and is that going to be the Aston Martin?
So the Aston Martin, I've always thought, is kind of like the aspirational kind of, trophy car, which I will do some work to, but it's never going to be this kind of center project of the channel. The center project of the channel will always be something cheap. It will always be something relatable. It will always be something which I really enjoy. As much as I love driving that Aston outside, I genuinely get more pleasure from driving a Honda Jazz, and I'm not. Look, the Honda doesn't have any air conditioning. It's not comfortable. It doesn't have, it has the looks of the Aston, the sex appeal, none of it. But when you're driving that Honda Jazz and you're ripping through VTEC, getting through the gears, and it just sounds like an angry wasp going down the road, that to me is that's what I love about cars. I love, and the fact that I've done it myself with my friends, and I've built it, and I've put hard work into it, and it is now ripping down the road. And I actually came out of a Japanese meet last night, and I raced a Fiesta, and I gapped him in a Jazz, and that made me happy. And it's just,
and then you go back to your Aston Martin, like it's just absolutely mad.
But I genuinely look at those two cars when I wake up in the morning, and I think Jazz or Aston, and it is not an easy decision.
Well, we were hoping that you were going to bring the Jazz tonight down at Gertwig's. How mad is it that we were disappointed when we saw you in the Aston pulling up to Gert versus the Jazz?
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. But the reason why I didn't bring it was because the side skirts aren't really on properly, and they probably would have fallen off.
Oh, it's YouTube done.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's YouTube done, and I will make it done, but it's not done yet.
Well, that leads us on to something. If you're a subscriber of this channel, if you're not, then please do take this moment to hit the subscribe button. But to a new section that I'm going to try and add, so this is either going to go well or not well at all, called Someone Said, where some people that know you and know of you, I've got them to write either a question or a statement today.
Okay.
More questions, to be fair. And you've got to try and guess at the end who said what. So a few of them never actually managed to get their messages in the end. They're very naughty. So we've got 3. So this is the first question. What's the weirdest message you have ever received on TikTok?
Do you know what? On TikTok, you don't... I think I know who this is because I know why they'd probably get weird messages. I actually don't really get... The only messages I get on TikTok is the wave emoji. That's all I get.
From all that time?
And all that time. And the only thing that people ask
me... Go and change that, guys.
The only thing that people ask me is like, I've just bought this car. It's this, it's that. What should I do to it? And I used to answer them, but I can't anymore because it would take too much time.
Well, the people that have sent in questions are Chris Slicks, Grace Autos, Chiro from Petrolheadism, and Adam C. So at the end, we're going to try and see if you can pick who asked you what.
Okay.
But that was the first question. What's the weirdest message you've ever received on TikTok? The second was, have you considered adding a counter in your videos for every time you say the phrase, ladies and gentlemen?
Do you know what? I've done that in the past, but I haven't done it. I've done it for different words or phrases. But yeah, ladies and gents has just been such a go-to for me. And it's like you just get into the habit of saying the same thing when you're addressing the camera or addressing your audience. And yeah, I definitely rinsed that one out for sure.
And I've just realised that one of those 4 hasn't actually sent their question in. So it's going to be 3.
Oh, no.
It's going to be 3. So you've got to pick who you think said what. And the third question was, how frequently do you shave your balls?
Right, okay. So I'm going to go with... I actually don't know the answer to that question. Probably... you got me at a loss for words, Ben. I reckon the first question was Grace. The second question was Chiro. And the third question was... Oh, is Chiro sent a message in?
Chiro was the odd one out who never sent one in.
Oh, okay.
So it's between Grace, Adam C, and Chris Slick.
First question, Grace. Second question was Chris. Third question, Adam C. That is definitely Adam C who's asked that question.
Which one?
The last one.
You were 1 out of 3 correct.
Really?
Yeah, Grace did ask how often you share. No, I'm joking. Grace asked about the TikTok question. However, it was Adam C that said about the counter. No, it wasn't actually. No, I've got this completely wrong. I balls this whole segment up. I told you it could go wrong. Hang on. Yeah, no, it was Chris that asked the ladies and gentlemen when you're 3 for 3.
I knew it. That is an Adam C question to ask. He is... Don't know why he's interested in that. We'll have to ask him, I suppose, when I next see you.
But that leads me on nicely to these guys we all collaborate with. You see them in our spaces. Who is it that you take the most inspiration from currently?
Matt. It's got to be Matt. I mean, what he's managed to build is incredible. But I take inspiration from everyone in the space, to be honest. I take little pieces of inspiration. So Chris, for example, just uploaded a video on his AMG GT. He's like building it from Temu is kind of how he titled it. That video, I watched it, really cool. And I take a lot of inspiration.
There's a wicked video.
That. Really good video. And I told him, and it was a really good video. But also Donut Media, I take a load of inspiration from them. Like when I kind of just decided that I wanted to get into YouTube at the beginning of this year, I said I need to do research. And Matt and Donut Media were the 2 kind of channels where I was like, right, what do these guys do that make them so successful? And I kind of took elements of both of them and kind of implemented them into my own content and kind of just tested to see whether that changed anything, and it did. And then and from that I feel like I've developed my own style of doing things and going from there. So that's kind of how I've kind of taken inspiration from different people, I suppose.
They say that the only thing that should matter on YouTube is your views.
Mm-hmm.
But on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you care about hitting 100k subs and getting that button?
Oh, I care. I care. I like, because it's been a childhood dream. You see all your YouTubers that you look up to get that plaque, and it's like I'm almost there. I'm gonna get that through the post, and it will be a proud moment. But and I am very motivated by kind of those monetary goals. I am, and it's like, then it will always be kind of what's the next step kind of thing. But I would say that I am kind of driven and motivated by that for sure.
Do you believe in the next 5 years you'll hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube?
Yes.
Jack McNeill, can't wait to see you back here in 5 years' time. Thank you very much for coming on Road to Success. It was a fantastic episode and a brilliant insight to anybody thinking about getting into content creation, or maybe you've had a video go viral or something strange has happened and it's that moment or spark you need to go and do something interesting
100%.
and follow something that can actually be damn fun. So congratulations, and I look forward to sitting with you in the future.
Mate, for sure.
Cheers.
Let's do it, man.